Yeah, we in the sunshine.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our last interview for the day. And, Peter, the format that we're gonna use, we're gonna, go around the table and introduce ourselves, just basically getting our name. And then after we finish that, you'll have a minute or less to tell us who you are and why, and why you're running. And then each, editorial board member will ask you one question. And, you'll get 2 minutes or less to respond to that question. And if we have enough time, if they have some redirect questions or additional questions, we'll ask. And then the last 2 minutes, you'll sum up as to why you like the recommendation of this endorsement, of the editorial board. Yes, and you want to say something? Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Coach, I'm Johnny Hunter, the publisher of Tempo News, and we'll go down the line to the next person.
Danny Preston.
Valerie Shaw.
Julian Moreland.
Inez Hunter. Henry Pugh.
Okay, now, Peter, give us a brief introduction of yourself for about a minute, and then we'll start the question.
I'm Pete Tyson. I've been here a couple times. I think some of you may have seen me before. And I started running in 2009 because the city commission did something that I thought was kind of stupid. They took a law that the police were using to bust drug dealers, and they repealed it. And so I thought, now wait a minute, the police are using this law to bust the drug dealers, and they repealed the law, and the law was, if you were to spit on the street, which is against the law, they would search you for drugs, and sure enough, whenever they did this, they found drugs in saleable quantities. So I thought, well, if the police are using this to such success, why did they stop it? And they stopped it because they said that it was racist. But anybody can spit. A white person can spit, a black person can spit. If it's against the law to spit on the street, well then, it is against the law. And anybody can obey that law. So if you can obey the law and you don't, well then the police have got the right to, interview you and, oh, incidentally, what's this bulge in your pocket? And it turns out to be a big bag of cocaine, So that's why I started running, and I've run in every election since. But between the elections, I don't run.
Thank you for that. We'll go ahead and start the questioning. I guess, are you still in, Mr. Bowler? You still in? We'll start with Henry then.
On the note of ran for election, that law, what was your, I'm just trying to understand the story. Was it to, because right now I don't have your bio, so I'm getting it now. Is it to encourage more law enforcement or to encourage more drug seizing?
Well, I probably wasn't clear. That's what started me on it. It was a trigger event. I said, wait a minute. Anybody can do better than this commission if they would do something like that. And so then I started delving into other issues, and right now I think the biggest issue is the budget deficit of $459 million, which is a huge amount of money for a jurisdiction this size. And of course, a lot of that is pension underfunding, and some of it is excessive spending. So if they're spending too much and they've borrowed too much, or rather not saved enough, or borrowed from what should have been savings, then that's pretty much the biggest issue facing the taxpayers, because we're all on the hook for that. So the spitting decision was just a trigger to me, and the rest of it, the first time I ran, I said, well, we really need better transportation in our town, and by that I mean you get on the road and try to go somewhere, and it's much slower than it was 30 years ago. If you've been here 30 years, you may have been. And I think even if you've only been here 10 years, you notice how the traffic's getting worse. And the reason it's getting worse is because we allow developers to build buildings which attract people and attract residents, and now we've got a bigger population, and they didn't do anything in the meantime for the roads. So that's kind of between the budget and the roads, we're not going to solve both of those, but I'm just saying we ought to at least acknowledge that we have those problems. And so that's what I'm running on now, is the fact that we need to admit what our problems are and start working to solving them.
So basically, you want tax revenue that we're generating from the growth to help build roads or support law enforcement?
I would think that the people who are making the most money out of the development, the developers themselves, and the real estate people who sell it, they should get together and have what you'd call impact fees or concurrency, which these are words that have been said before. If we were to do that, we do to a small extent. But what will happen is they will calculate a concurrency amount, and it'll be like someone trying to rent the hall out there. They'll say, well, won't you give me a deal? And we were just talking about that before. Well, it's the same thing with the developers. They'll say, well, gee, county commission or city commission, the last deal was the county, but there's deals coming up at the city. They'll say, can't you give us a break? But if we give them a break, it's not us giving them the break, it's y'all giving them a break. And last time I heard, y'all were satisfied that the amount of taxes you're paying is enough, maybe too much. So, it's like if the people who are benefiting from the project don't pay for its impacts, then the taxpayers as a whole, all of us will pay.
Wasn't there a problem with taxpayers buying real estate and that real estate being taken off the tax rolls?
Say that again. I didn't follow that.
There was a problem before the boom that the county and the city, for that matter, was buying property, taking it off the tax roll, which also contributed to our deficit here in the county of Sarasota City.
If the county or the city buys property, it indeed does come off the tax roll. I can't imagine why they would do that, but they've been doing it. And I have asked why they're doing it. There's no answers. As a matter of fact, we've got a whole department in the city that's devoted to buying things. And there are 45 people who have spending authority of $49,999.99. I don't know why they didn't just say 50,000, but anyway, it's a penny less than a 50,000. They have what they call a P card, purchase card. It's a credit card. They go over there and charge that much. And there's 45 people on city staff that have that authority. And evidently they could charge, and that's per line item. In other words, he can go and buy 5 of them, spending 200,000 plus, and there's no questions asked. Well put. That's where our money's going, And yes, when we buy property, it's off the tax rolls. So, yeah, I think a commissioner should at least ask about that. He might not get an answer, but he should ask. As a candidate, I've asked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing something else, so pay attention on something else right now.
After, if I recall, I was doing some research on you, and if I'm correct, if I remember right, I think you prefer small government over big government. I'd like to know why. Explain your viewpoint.
There's a story that's told. It's just a story, but it has a little bit of truth in it. the man says to the other man, well, I've got bad news and good news. Which would you like first? And the guy says, I can't decide. Says, okay, the bad news is the government didn't do anything. Oh. Well, what's the good? Well, the good news is the government didn't do anything. In other words, if the government is bigger, it does more wrong because they're so bad at doing right. And that's why I like it to be a little smaller. I mean, if they're kind of stressed, if they reach the end of the day and they've still got more work to do, maybe they will have planned their day so they only did the things that were absolutely essential, and that might be a good thing. So that's why I kind of like the smaller government.
Okay, Danny?
I know you've heard about city manager and the mayor, elected mayor, form of government.
Yeah.
That's city council. How do you feel about that? How do you feel that will affect our community?
Are you running?
No.
Oh, okay. I just wondered if you were. It's kind of like what our man here just said. You know, if you get somebody who's got a lot of power, well, the first thing he's going to do is abuse that power, either intentionally or by mistake. You know, either way, the power's abused. So you've got a guy, and as he's running for office, he's going to be collecting political contributions. And everyone who contributes to him is either going to be a developer or a real estate person. This is the only people that contribute any amounts of money in government. I've gotten like 4 contributions, and the rest is my own money, which, you know, you say, well, gee, you don't have any money. And I say, well, yeah, I don't, you know, but I've got one contribution from the guy who runs Control Growth Now, because he sees that I'm, you know, talking about controlling growth. I got another one from Rick Farmer, and I got another one from a fellow I don't know, but he gave me $100. I gave a speech, he walked up to me and gave me a check for $100, and I don't really know him. I checked out his address, and it's a little company on Lime Avenue. And like I say, I don't know him, but it's $100. I don't have to know him. You know, it's like, if it's $100 or less, you don't. By looking at his company, I'd say he must be a contractor, because he's got, you know, pipe and boards and stuff out there. So I thought he must be a contractor, but I don't know him. So with $310 of contributions, I mean, oh, wait a minute, I got another one. I got another one, $25 from the head of Suburban Republican Club. They call that Village Walk. Do you know Village Walk? Well, it's a little gated community out there in Palmer Ranch. It's not very big. And since he gave me $25, I went to their meeting last week, and they're older people and all very nice. And I thought, well, okay, well, thank you for the $25. In appreciation of that, I'll give a little speech, and I did. And so, all right.
I need you ready?
Maybe I got the wrong idea, so tell me what it is.
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. I am on the board of Control Growth Now, and Control Growth Now says that they don't want growth that's going to hurt the community. Now, you go down Martin Luther King, you see a few vacant lots, but there's certain things that could go there that you might not like. You might not like a casino, for instance, particularly if it was noisy and all kinds of traffic all night long. You know, or if you like to play the cards and things, maybe you would like a casino, but not everybody would like that kind of use. So Control Growth would say, well, you should have meetings of the community to talk about projects, And if everybody in the community doesn't like it, well, that's one red flag. You should also determine what the impacts are, whether this is going to, well, for instance, some of these buildings are 18 stories high. Should you have an 18-story building on Martin Luther King? Well, some people are going to say yeah, and some people are going to say no, but they kind of have to take a straw vote among the community to find out if the community will accept that. And, okay, let's say they did. How many cars are going to come, and how many cars are going to go, and what will the traffic on Martin Luther King look like if that many cars are making all those trips? And you might not like the answer. Now, there's going to be a traffic study, and the developer is going to pay for it. It's $10,000. I went down to City Hall, and I asked to see all the traffic studies that had ever been done, and there were 5. 5 traffic studies were done. All these buildings that were built, 5 traffic studies were done. Usually the government just says, oh, well, we don't really need that, and they pass it on. No traffic study on the building. So I looked through the 5. All 5 of them said that there was not going to be a significant impact in traffic. And this includes the new Publix. Now, if they're not going to get any more traffic than they're getting, why do they want a new building? How in the world are they going to get any business out of that? So you know that the study was faked. Well, all right. Well, people like Control Growth Now, of whom I am one, point those things out. And the community always says, yeah, you're right. But if we weren't there to raise the issue, the people in the community might not think of it because they've got so much else to think about. So that's the function of Control Growth Now, is to raise issues that you might not think of when a property comes up to,
So you're not popular with contractors?
You think I'm not popular with contractors?
Part 2 of my question.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand controlled growth, but I personally am concerned about economic development over here in Newtown. Now, if we brought a Walmart or a Home Depot or whatever, it's going to increase our traffic, but it's going to also increase our taxes, our economy over here. So I don't care if it's more cars. And it's not in your neighborhood, so you really shouldn't be caring about it either. But the city of Sarasota, when the forefathers had that Interstate 75 coming through here years ago, 75 was originally supposed to run through Sarasota to help with traffic. And the good old boys decided they didn't want 75 to run through here because they didn't want Sarasota to grow. So they didn't have any foresight, and that would have eliminated a lot of the traffic problems we got today. Well, like it or not, what you call this, improvement or whatever, is coming to the area. I don't see how they're gonna put an interstate through here now, but I'm sure they got some engineers that can figure it out. So what are you saying, that you don't want economic growth in this area?
No, we're saying that we'd recommend that there be extra lanes on the road, or that there might be another road, say, where, what's that one, is it East Avenue? The road that stops at 20th, well, maybe it should keep on to Martin Luther King. Maybe it should. What's over there is, there's not a whole lot there. It might have to jog around some houses, to make it, or you might have to widen one of the streets that's already there. But in other words, there needs to be some traffic improvements if there's going to be more traffic. And that's what controlled growth would say. I don't know if you like that idea or not, but that's what we're coming up with. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you think we're 30 years behind? I'm thinking we might be 50, but yeah, all right.
Okay, you got a question from?
Yeah, since you seem to know something about Newtown and Martin Luther King, if you were elected commissioner, what efforts would you put forth to try to improve this area?
One of the things I like about Newtown is that a number of the buildings are very much like the buildings that were in my own hometown when I was a little boy. You know, you have this kind of like childhood imprinting. Well, one of the first things I would improve, I think, is that I'd get rid of the idea that we need to tear everything in sight down, because that's not necessary. There's already some vacant property in Newtown. I think you might want to first be developing that vacant property, and then if you still need something else, then you'd have to kind of have the community decide what buildings need to be torn down. And I would think that they wouldn't want to tear down anything that somebody's living in. I mean, now if somebody's keeping junk cars in their yard or something, I don't know if there's any of that in your community. I haven't noticed it, but if there is in my community, people will do that where I live. Well, if somebody's got that, that's a zoning issue. That doesn't mean they have to tear the house down. That means they have to get the cars, either get the cars running or get them moved. You know, I mean, you wouldn't tear a guy's house down just because he had a car in front up on blocks and no license on it, you know. But I think we've got enough room of vacant property in Newtown that we could probably develop for 10 years and not run out of vacant property. Now, if it turns out 5 years I'm wrong and it's all gone, well, then we'd revisit it.
Okay. The question I have about the brownfield here located here in Newtown, and it was previously in the early years the city dump for the city and county of Sarasota. And after they filled that up and that landfill, then they moved it to 17th Street. After they filled that up, then they moved it from 17th Street now to Bee Ridge Road landfill. I have been a strong proponent that the city and county of Sarasota County is responsible for cleaning up that brownfield. Cause that is a valuable piece of property located up here it can really help develop and spur economic development. Do if the Walmart deals fell through and Home Depot and a lot of other initiatives was going to follow. Now the city in my understanding is